Military history is littered with grand stories of heroism and bravery. Oftentimes, these stories we are told do not live up to the reality of what actually happened. This is not the case for Gregory Pappy Boyington. A tough, hard-living, and hard-drinking legend of the skies, Pappy, as he was often called, being a decade older than the men he was commanding, was one of the greatest American fighter pilots of the Second World War. He and the unit he led would become so legendary that by the end of the war there would be books, documentaries, and even a TV show in the 1970s based on their exploits. This is the story of Pappy and his squadron that would become known as the Black Sheep Squadron. Boyington was born on December 4th, 1912 in Idaho. At 3 years old, his family would relocate to St. Marie's, a logging town near where he was born. His first chance to take to the skies will come at just 6 years old. Flying legend Clyde Pangborn, who would go on to be the first person to fly over the Pacific Ocean nonstop, would take Pappy up in his Curtiss JN-4 biplane. This experience sparked his lifelong passion for flying in airplanes. At age 12, the family moved again to Tacoma, Washington, where he would attend Lincoln High School. After graduating from high school in 1930, Boyington would attend the University of Washington in Seattle, majoring in aeronautical engineering while also being a member of the Army ROTC program. He graduated in 1934 and took a job as a draftsman and engineer for Boeing in Seattle. His military career would begin in June 1934, being commissioned a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army Coast Artillery Reserve, being stationed for 2 months of active duty in Fort Worden, Washington. Applying for flight school in the spring of 1935, he quickly realized he was ineligible due to being married. Boyington had grown up under the assumption that his father, Ellsworth J. Hallenbeck, was his father. While obtaining a copy of his birth certificate for flight school, he learned that his biological father was actually a Charles Boyington that his mother had divorced when he was an infant. He would then use the name Gregory Boyington to enroll as a U.S. Marine Corps aviation cadet, as there was no record of his marriage under the name Boyington. On February 18, 1936, he would be accepted as an aviation cadet and was assigned to Naval Air Station Pensacola for flight training. After being designated a naval aviator and while still serving in Pensacola, Boyington would get into a physical altercation with another officer, punching him during a disagreement. He was soon informed by his superiors that he would likely face a court-martial. However, what looked like it would be a massive roadblock in his career set him up towards a course that would start his career as one of the greatest fighter pilots to ever live. To avoid his upcoming court-martial, he quickly resigned his commission in the Marine Corps on August 26, 1941, and accepted a position with the Central Aircraft Manufacturing Company, a civilian firm that contracted a special air unit to defend China and the Burma Road. This group would soon go by a much more famous name, the Flying Tigers. Although his time with the Flying Tigers would be tumultuous, frequently in trouble with his commander and reportedly being called a liar and drunk by fellow pilots, Boyington would achieve his first aerial victories, destroying 2 Japanese aircraft in the air and 1.5 on the ground, flying the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk. In April 1942, he broke his contract with the volunteer group and returned to the United States. On September 29, 1942, he rejoined a Marine Corps in desperate need of experienced combat pilots and was deployed to the South Pacific in Guadalcanal in April 1943. In September of 1943, he would become the commanding officer of the squadron that would help make him famous, known by the nickname the Black Sheep Squadron. Originally given the nickname Gramps, being a decade older than most of the Marines serving under him, it was quickly changed to Pappy and would remain so for the remainder of his life. Pappy's exploits with the Black Sheep Squadron would be in large part thanks to the Vought F-4U Corsair, a single-engine fighter aircraft often viewed as one of the best piston-engine aircraft made during the war. The Corsair featured the 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine, 6 50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns, and was capable of speeds in excess of 400 miles an hour. His first chance at combat with the Marine Corps would come in September of 1943 over the Solomon Islands, downing a Japanese Zero. Over the next several months, the Black Sheep Squadron would be involved in many missions, including harassing enemy shipping, attacking enemy installations, and shooting Japanese planes out of the skies. Boyington and his men would receive so much coverage by American media that Japanese pilots would know him by name. When Pappy would fly over Japanese air bases, the Japanese would get on the radios and dare him to fly down through their anti-aircraft fire. He was reported as responding over the radio, "Come on up and fight, you sons of bitches." The Japanese would respond when on October 17th, 1943, 60 Japanese aircraft would meet 24 American aircraft over the southern tip of Bougainville. 20 enemy aircraft would be shot down without the loss of a single American aircraft. By the end of 1943, his kill count would balloon to 25 confirmed kills, making him the top Marine ace. On January 3rd, 1944, he would pass World War I ace Eddie Rickenbacker with 26 enemy planes destroyed. However, during the same mission, a sweep over Rabaul, Pappy became mixed in a melee of dogfights and was not seen or heard from after the battle. Following an extensive search, he was declared missing in action, being presumed KIA. Although unknown by his squadron at the time, he was shot down over the ocean and was picked up by an Imperial Japanese submarine and taken to Rabaul, becoming a prisoner of war. He spent the last 20 months of the war in Japanese prison camps, being in prison at Omara Prison Camp near Tokyo at the time of the surrender. On August 29, 1945, Pappy Boyington was liberated from Japanese custody and returned to the United States on September 12th, being greeted by 21 former members of the Black Sheep Squadron. That night, a party was held for him in downtown San Francisco, covered in a Life magazine issue on October 1st, 1945. The coverage would be the first time that a magazine had ever shown people consuming alcohol. During his storied military career, he would be awarded the Medal of Honor, which was awarded in March of 1944, and held in the Capitol until he could receive it, the Navy Cross, a Purple Heart, among other awards. In 1958, he would write his autobiography, Baa Black Sheep, that would be used loosely to create the 1970s television show of the same name. Gregory Pappy Boyington died on January 11, 1988, at the age of 75, being buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. His actions, along with the actions of thousands of other American pilots during the war, helped quell Japanese aggression and bring an end to the deadliest war in human history. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe for more incredible stories of military history. Also, let me know in the comments who you believe to be the greatest U.S. fighter ace in history. Thanks for watching.